right, the time is now 7:03, and I would like to call the Mount Vernon City Council meeting for February 8th, 2023 to order. Would you all please join me in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this evening, the mayor and council member Hudson are feeling a little under the weather. Our thoughts and prayers go out to them for a speedy recovery. Councilmember Hudson will be excused from this evening's meeting. I would like to call the roll of the council. Councilmember Beaton.
Here.
Councilmember Brocksmith.
Here.
Councilmember Chris.
Here.
Councilmember Molinar.
Here.
And Councilmember Morales.
Here.
This time, I would ask Mr. Donovan if we have any comments from the
Thank you.
public that were submitted via email.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Holst. Yes, we do have one email that was submitted to community comments. That email was sent on January 28th from Mr. David Prutzman. Mayor and council members, I personally want to commend Mr. Groth for having the fortitude to research and produce this report. This is in reference to his subject line is the development process report, the design review report. His results underscore the opening sentence in the 2017 Burke report. The housing analysis that follows shows that some of the current conditions in Mount Vernon will need to change for this city's vision to be realized. That pretty much says it all. The current conditions in place in 2017 are still in place. Since the council last adopted goals for growth and made a commitment to those goals, nothing has been done to make the development process friendlier. In fact, just the opposite. Council has adopted codes making the process more subjective, arduous, and expensive. There are too many examples to outline in this response, but suffice it to say, the result couldn't be accidental. The net result is that the city is miserably short of meeting any goals pertaining to growth. A successful developer, builder, and business associate of mine described the city codes thusly. Quote, "If I were a used car salesman, I'd be in jail. It's all bait and switch," end quote. There are reasons that a city of 40,000 has one private development being constructed and other than 2 to 3 homes standing. There is no new housing, and this has been the case for the last several years. Refer to the statistics that Councilmember Brocksmith provided you 2 years ago. Darren's report touches on some of the reasons. The Design Review Board is part of the problem. Design standards are a greater one, and the people who bring them forward without a full examination or explanation of the effects are the root. Process is the biggest problem. Process kills development when its power is held in the hands of a few with an agenda. Where's the council through all of this the last 5 years? Developers, builders vote with their feet. If they find it too arduous and expensive to work in a market, they move on to another friendlier, less expensive one. That's what has and is happening in Mount Vernon. We're tired of being run in circles. We're tired of subjective delaying tactics. Again, I commend Darren for bringing forth his report. I admire his courage. Now it's time for council to listen and walk the walk. If not, the results will be the same. Respectfully, David Prutzman.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to invite the public to address the council if they have any comments that they'd like to make. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council this evening? Please state your name and city residence for the record, please.
Glorious, thank you. I'm Lynette Brower. I am the director of the Northwest Career and Technical Academy over here by Skagit Valley College. I currently actually reside in the city of Anacortes. I am here on behalf, however, of 2 agencies, the Skill Center, with a huge thank you to the city of Mount Vernon for their support in helping our students as juniors and seniors in high school look at law enforcement, look at fire service, look at dispatch. The city of Mount Vernon staff have made themselves very available to inspire our young people. I'm here though on behalf of Skagit Valley Neighbors in Need. I'm a member of the board here, and our folks were not able to come, so I was nominated. We are having some issues with the 3rd Street being closed, and just to call your attention to some concerns around traffic safety for our clients that are accessing the food bank. Over 500 families are receiving services on Tuesdays. The crosswalks and the signs are getting hit by cars. It's just a little bit more congestion. Just wanted to help call your attention to that. But thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address council this evening? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. I trust the council's had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. And if there's no questions, I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
I'll motion for approval.
Okay,
Second.
motion by Councilmember Morales, seconded by Councilmember Molinar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the sign of nay. Ayes have it, the consent agenda is adopted. This time we'll move into our committee reports. We're going to start with our Public Works and Library Committee report. Councilmember Molinar.
Okay, we opened up the Public Works and Library Committee tonight at 6 o'clock after the approval of the January 11th meeting. Blaine Chesterfield, our program coordinator, he discussed the culvert replacement professional service agreements, which will be on our tonight's city council meeting. The city has 7 known fish passage barriers. This agreement will assist the city with grant funding opportunities for design and or construction of the improvements. Next, he talked about drainage. District 17 has requested to renegotiate the current agreement for the stormwater pump station, electrical costs and maintenance. This pump station drains from Maddox Creek and Big Ditch in South Mount Vernon. The council will be updated as the negotiations progress. Next, we had Bill Bellick give us some project updates. Public Works is moving into the Hogan LaVenture Signal project. It is currently out for bid, and that bid will be opened up or due on February 14th. There is also a signal cabinet, which has been ordered on the state purchasing contract for Western Systems. There are 9 contractors that are open or that are bidding on that project. The city paving program and curb ramp program is also out to bid. There are 7 contractors looking at that one. Also, the overlay program bid has 4 paving companies that are also bidding on that, and that will be closing on February 17th. Public Works is beginning an annual update to its 6-year transportation program, which is due for adoption by June 30th of this year. Next, Public Works Director Chris Phillips provided updates on Pacific PW Department Strategic Communications Plan, also sidewalk program and cartograph maintenance software for Phase 1 implementation. He also updated us on some of the new signal signs that you saw like during the snow events, and also updated us on snow and ice removal. These are some things that are being on our website. He also gave a little update on our safe routes to school. And then following up that, our librarian, Isaac Huffman, gave us some updates on the Library Commons fundraising progress, annual meetings, and next steps in the construction, including recommendations on how we're proceeding. We are still within our construction budget, which is always a good thing and good news. The library provided also an overview of the summer reading planning, 4% Friday, new technology, and we close the meeting at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Councilmember Molinar. I'll give the Public Safety Committee meeting report. We met last Wednesday, February 1st, right here in council chambers. The entire council was present at the time. We first heard from Chief Bryce, our fire chief. He gave us an update on Fire Station number 3, the upgrades going on up there. Everything's really moving forward and is on track. We should be finished up with that project sometime mid-June, early July. And then we'll move into the phase 2 of our project, which is the updates to Station 2. And that'll transpire about a month after we finish the Station 3 project. We have to move, we've got everything from Station 3 moved up to Station 2. All the personnel are up at Station 2. Now, once it's completed, we'll have to move all the equipment and all the personnel back. So we're gonna have about a month lag time before we can start on our updates on Station 2. And then he gave us a brief overview on a contract negotiation that we have going on with Fire District 1. About 5 years ago, we entered into a contract with District 1. It was actually a financial contract. Prior to that, we'd had a kind of a handshake agreement that they would provide equipment when needed, but there was nothing really cast in stone. 5 years ago, we solidified that contract. We set a specific amount per year that they would pay. That contract is now up. We're in negotiations, and really, it's going to be more of a contract extension with a cost of living increase annually. So we'll be able to continue to provide fire services to District 1 and be able to cover our costs for those services. Then we heard from our police chief and several of our officers on our graffiti problem. A number of folks have noticed an uptick in some graffiti in the area. Found it interesting that an uptick in graffiti usually translates to a reduction in violent crime. And that's what our statistics are showing us now, that the leaders of the gangs in the area, they have gone away, prison, out of the area, whatever. So our violent crime rate has gone down, that's gang related. But we have a lot of the younger people that are trying to make a name for themselves, and that's where the graffiti's coming in at. The department is working on a number of solutions to kind of get rid of that graffiti. Not only with graffiti removal, but some tactics to eliminate the need for those individuals to tag fences or whatever they're doing. So they're working on it. It's more of a public nuisance when we see that graffiti. The city's on top of it. We have a graffiti abatement program. We try to get that eliminated as quickly as possible. In some cases, we have to work with property owners in order to eliminate that, but we are on it. The department is working on it, and they're moving forward. We then heard from our Development Services Director, Mr. Groth. He was giving us an update on the design standards. There was a reference to that in our community comments earlier today. Director Groth just kind of gave us an overview on some ideas that he has to make that, streamline the system, make the permitting process much easier, and be able to get projects in and out quickly at a reduced cost for the developer, the property owner that is working on that. They've opened up some of the systems in our SmartGov. People will be able to upload their plans and receive their permits fairly quickly. Versus a program that we had in the past where they had to wait for a certain time frame, get a link, upload it, and then wait. The new system is going to move things along much faster. And then Mayor Boudreau led a discussion on our consent agenda. A number of times folks will see us approve a consent agenda. And normally what that is just what is on our consent agenda is just normal housekeeping business. The adoption of minutes, the approval of payroll, the approval to pay bills. But sometimes we have some other items. A couple weeks ago, we combined a number of items into our consent agenda. Those were basic housekeeping items. They were items that every year we have to renew a contract. So we go through our budgeting process, we approve a budget, those items are in the budget. Council has to approve the actual the mayor entering into those contracts when that time comes. We've just decided that those items are just basic housekeeping items. We'll put those onto our consent agenda. If there's a member of the council that has any kind of question about those, we can pull that out and have a discussion on that and clarify that. But we were just looking at ways to kind of move the process along a little bit quicker. All of the documentation that is on our consent agenda is available to the public on the city website. So there is nothing hidden there. It's all public information. We were just looking at eliminating the repetitiveness in some of the meetings. And with that, we adjourned about 8:10. So we are going to forgo the mayor's report report. We'll go to council member comments. Any council member comments? Councilmember Brucksmith?
Thank you. Yeah, if I could, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize staff from various departments that I've been had the pleasure of working with. Some in my city council role and some in outside roles. So, for instance, we've had a successful Illuminate event a week ago, and I really wanted to thank the Parks Department for helping us with that, and the COPP, Citizens on Police Patrol, as well, for their volunteerism. It was a great evening, very well attended. So that was really fun, and I wanted to thank the city for their partnership there. And also, I've been working with the Parks Department in 25th Street Park, and we're looking forward to some activities there to continue to improve infrastructure there with the Kiwanis group and Leadership Skagit. So I'm just very thankful to the Parks Department for helping on that as well. And one last call out, I really wanted to thank Public Works for, we've asked them to look across all of our various sidewalk programs and kind of pull them into a set of programs that kind of is a little more holistic, and they've just gone above and beyond to work with the Mount Vernon School District to really look at safer routes to schools for our citizens, for their children when they're traveling to and from school. There's going to be some new maps that'll be coming out so people can see that, and the schools know what we're providing, and we're offering to work with the schools to continue to even improve where possible. So just a lot of great work going, and those are just the tips of the iceberg. So I just wanted to thank staff for all their work.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Brucksmith. Are there any other council member comments? All right. Any committee agenda requests? All right, hearing none. I'm going to invite Mr. Donovan to come up and give our community development block grant action plan presentation. I would remind you, council, this will be a public hearing, but there's no action afterwards.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Holst. Good evening, council. As you may or may not know, every 5 years, the city is required to assess the needs of our community prior to compiling what HUD refers to as a consolidated plan. This 5-year consolidated plan is the city's way to strategize how to use and spend the pass-through federal CDBG dollars that come to the city. How should those be spent in order to impact our community's greatest needs? Once these needs are identified by the consolidated plan, the city can more clearly apply its CDBG allocations each year in our annual action plan. So consolidated plan, annual action plan. Tonight's open record public hearing is our first step toward obtaining the views of residents and other interested parties on the housing and non-housing community development needs of the city before a draft 2023 to 27 consolidated plan and a 1-year 2023 to 24 action plan is prepared. So tonight we're inviting the public, including social service agencies, to come and present their needs. Between now, just to give you an idea, timeline-wise, between now and early April, the city's going to be compiling these requests, assessing the needs that are out there while we draft both the 5-year plan and the 1-year action plan. A public hearing on the drafts will be held in May of this year before final approval by council, and it gives the opportunity for the public to weigh in one more time, and then those plans would be submitted to HUD. So with that, staff would recommend that council open the public hearing tonight for the purpose of obtaining the public's input on those topics. And I'll just say we have one agency, Friendship House, was unable to attend in person tonight, and they are standing by on Zoom. So with your permission, I would let them go first whenever you're ready to open the public hearing.
Are there any questions from council at this point in time for Mr. Donovan? All right, I would like to open the public records hearing. We will start with Friendship House.
Great. I'd like to introduce Jen Hutchison from the Friendship House. Jen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, council members. Thank you for letting me join you virtually. I'm hoping that I might be able to share my screen.
Let's try.
That froze up pretty good. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Oh dear. Well, that's helpful. I don't know that I'm able to share my screen. It doesn't look like it from this side. So let me just begin by saying thank you for your support. Friendship House has been doing a lot of work this year in capital updates. The council has already given us support with the block grant funding. In 2022, we were able to modify our Barbara's House property. It got a beautiful revitalization. I wish you guys could see my slides right now. The paint came out so gorgeous. It was a major lead-based paint renovation. And we do have the council members to thank and the mayor for all of the support from the city for that. In addition to Barbara's House renovations, we've done a lot of work over at the women's shelter. We've had a full sewer overhaul. We've replaced the roof. The entire basement level has been completely renovated. So many different projects this year alone has been just wonderful to see happen. And the block grant helped us with Barbara's House paint. In the future, we are just very excited about continuing this work. We look forward to renovating actually the women's shelter a little bit more. We have a need to replace the fire escape that's existing at that facility to make sure that it is up to par and is available when safety measures are needed. That's going to be a huge action plan. I wish I could share my slides with you. I've got all the visuals on it and the plans that are underway. We're working with engineers and designers to try to make this come together pretty quickly. And aside from that being block grant funds, we're looking at some more paint jobs, some windows that are going to be helpful. So this will be kind of exhausting some of the funding that's already been awarded to the Friendship House over the year that we still have on hold. And looking forward to the 1-year plan, I can't say enough how much we're really excited about stepping into affordable housing next. We have a property over in Burlington right now that we're actually working with the city on converting from a single family home to 8 efficiency apartment units that are all going to be sub-market rental efficiency units for the community. There's so many neat floor plans, and working with the community in other ways to partner with the organizations that are also trying to strive towards making these low rent, affordable rental options available to the citizens of Mount Vernon. We're really anxious to get together and really partner to develop more of these. If you're thinking of Friendship House as just being a shelter, I hope that you can open up your vision a little bit more, because we've got to find places for people to safely transition out of homelessness too. And Friendship House really plans to be part of taking action to make sure that that happens in the very near future. With the 5 apartment units that we have at Barbara's House right now, we're aiming to turn the extra house over in Burlington into an 8-unit facility. So we'll be up to 13 rentals at that point in 2023 is our goal. So going into 2024, we're hoping to acquire more properties and be able to do more renovations to be able to achieve even greater output for these sub-market rent facilities to be available. I just hope that you all keep Friendship House in mind, and we would love to share more with you, but I know my time's running short and you have other guests that would like to share. So thank you for having me. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate you keeping us on your agenda.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Just to let you know, I had sent the link to your slides to City Council. Take a look at those projects.
Oh, thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate that.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak during this open public record for the CDBG block grant? Would you mind stating your name and city for the record, please?
Hi, I'm Melissa Self, and I live in Mount Vernon. Thank you, Council, for having invited me here tonight to speak on behalf of Community Action of Skagit County. We very much appreciate the support that we have received in the past from Mount Vernon, City of Mount Vernon, and the CDBG funding. This funding goes typically to support our resource center, where we assist people in our community struggling to meet their basic needs and to help them enter the homeless system. I wanted to share a few highlights of some of the new approaches that we're taking to better support those that are struggling to find or remain in housing in the community. We have a growing, in the past year and a half, a growing street outreach team that are out on the street every day connecting with those that are unhoused, building trust and relationships with the goal of connecting them to health, recovery, housing, and other appropriate resources. The team recently began conducting homeless coordinated entry intakes out in the field at the winter shelter, and they work closely to provide warm handoffs to other organizations. They work closely with Aaron from the Mount Vernon Police Department as well. The team has just been an incredible asset to our organization as we see these folks coming more and more often with higher and higher needs. We just met last week with public health staff at the Justice Center to find ways to connect people prior to the release with the goal of a smoother transition into the community as well, and we're working on some strategies with them. We've partnered with Skagit Regional Health and their residency clinic to bring medical care out into the field that those are having a hard time accessing health care. And in the past year, I just want to say that we've taken the lessons that we've learned from our street outreach team, and we have restructured our whole coordinated entry resource center and our housing programs by expanding the foundational community supports program, where we're actually able to bill Medicaid for some of the case management or care coordination that we're doing. This is allowing us to expand our staff and to be able to actually connect folks that are coming into coordinated entry immediately with a care provider, care coordinator, to help them, even if they aren't able to get into a shelter or into a housing program right away, start working on the other barriers and get them connected. The care specialists, again, are in the office, but they're also out in the community as well, as is our outreach team. They're all trained in doing coordinated entry intakes now, and so we've got a little bit more capacity to handle the folks that are coming in. And they're able to stay connected to the folks that are out living on the streets that are very transient, and oftentimes they come and they get onto the coordinated entry or come and get a basic need met, and then when a resource opens up to them, we can't find them. So between our street outreach team and these care coordinators, we'll be able to stay better connected to the folks and get them connected when a resource is available. We're just going to continue to develop our systems of supporting people in the community, and I just want to thank you again for allowing me to speak on behalf of our agency. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else? Again, if you could just state your name and city of residence for the record, and which organization you're representing.
Hi, my name's Morgan Curry. I use she, her pronouns. I'm just getting over a cold, so I sound a little, I don't normally sound like this. Anyway, I reside in Mount Vernon, Washington, and I'm the executive director at Skagit Gleaners. And I'm here to talk to you today about a funding request that Skagit Gleaners is going to put in for capital improvements at our facility and part of the CDBG block grant funding. But before I get into the funding request, I'd like to first share some organizational background and then also share some community priorities that I see at an organizational level that we need worked into our CDBG consolidated plan. So starting with organizational background, Gleaners, we've been an organization in the county since the 1980s. What started out as a hand harvest gleaning program among a handful of families has now grown into a grassroots gleaning model where we go and we glean several million pounds of surplus foods, goods, household items, all from manufacturers, distributors, farms, backyards, grocery stores, restaurants, all of the above. And then we take that and we redistribute it to families who use it right away. So our whole mission is to keep food, abundant food and items out of the landfill. And today our innovative approaches to food security have really started to build a sustainable and equitable food system through a community-driven model, and we do this through four main ways. One, we run a cooperative model, so everyone who uses our services contributes to the nominal contribution of the organization. Everyone pitches in a little donation every month to help pay for rent and electricity. Everyone also volunteers sweat equity at the organization of 3.5 hours a month. And the reason why this cooperative model is so important is because it empowers a community-led system fueled by active participation, and it plays a vital role in bridging disparate gaps. in the journey from a food bank participant to a grocery store consumer. So we quite literally are a middle point between food bank participants and grocery store consumers. I do want to note that for migrant seasonal farm workers or for McKinney-Vento clients, the nominal contribution is excused. They don't have to pay that to use our services. The second way we do this is through our gleaning efforts, traditional gleaning efforts, which I'm sure you're all aware of. The third way we do this is through a new program called our BIPOC Farmer Collaboration. So when we do have to purchase additional fruits and vegetables to offset our gleaning efforts, we purchase them exclusively from BIPOC-led and BIPOC-owned farms, culturally relevant food, of course, and then it makes it, what this really does is that it's designed to advance economic stability and mobility among BIPOC farmers, as well as shift power around food production. And then the last thing that we do is we partner with some culturally relevant food projects in the area. We work closely with NABC and Catholic Community Services to do culturally relevant food projects for migrant farm workers. So at the very minimum, Skagit Gleaners fills a unique need that gets people out of the food bank line and into a more sustainable solution that at its core fosters community resiliency, cross-sector collaboration, and alternative approaches to food access. What I want to talk to you next is about just some general community priorities that I think we need to work into our CDBG block grant consolidated plan, because there is a growing need to incorporate concepts of food access into conversations about housing, economic development, poverty reduction, and community development. We must grapple with the fact that our community is in a food crisis, and this food crisis is only exacerbated for members of our community who lack work authorizations or who are otherwise excluded from SNAP or EBT. And what I mean by that is we see this largely with our migrant farm worker community, where only 33% of our migrant farm workers are actual U.S. citizens of the U.S. And as is, 56 to 64% of our migrant farm workers are food insecure compared to 8% of their white counterparts. This is largely due to a lack of production of culturally relevant food, isolated geographic locations of migrant housing complexes, disparate wages, artificial barriers for SNAP, and a lack of cultural awareness and trust with service providers and agencies. It is for these reasons why Skagit Gleaners has created intentional programming for migrant farm workers, but it's also for these reasons why the city should consider adding more intentional programming in the CDBG funding for migrant farm worker food security. Now I'm getting into my funding ask. So Skagit Gleaners would like to request funding for capital improvement at our facility. Because of inflated prices of food combined with our rollout of our targeted migrant programs, our agency has grown from serving 300 families a year to over 550 families a year in a 2-year time span, which is a large amount of growth in just 2 years. And so what we see that we need is we're seeing strains on our existing facilities, and the two things that we really, really need right now are we need to increase our cold storage space by either installing a walk-in cooler or a walk-in freezer, and then we also need to add additional storage space for clothing and household donations. And by adding these two additions to our facility, it will allow us to improve the efficacy of the program, and it will allow us to continue growing and serving the population at large. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Again, if you state your name, city of residence, and the organization you represent.
I'm Melanie Corey. Can you hear me? Yep. Good evening, council members and staff and members of the public. I'm from Cedro-Woolley, but I am here representing the Housing Authority of Skagit County and your residents that we have in 4 projects in your community. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to come. I saw that you had a public hearing, and I wanted to take the opportunity to come and say thank you for the staff and all who participated in helping us through the Mount Vernon Family Housing Development. That was a big project that had issues with the pandemic and weather and everything. And we have just opened the project, and clients began moving in February 1st. A couple of your council members were there for the grand opening and could see it, but we want to extend an invitation if anyone wants to look at it before it's fully leased up, which will probably be by the end of this month. And we are very excited. We have about 35 families that have already moved in. And of those, about 2/3 have been either homeless or living in housing that is unsuitable for human habitation and in overcrowded conditions. And so that project has 38 units for farm worker families, workforce housing. It has 8 units for homeless veterans, and it has 4 units for people or families with disabilities. So we're very excited. We wanted to say thank you. There was quite a bit of staff time from Mount Vernon helping us throughout this process, and we just wanted to say thank you. Also, especially the staff that helped with the CHIP program, Connecting Housing to Infrastructure program, which really helped. This project was very much over budget because of supply chain issues and the pandemic and everything. So I just wanted to come and say thank you for all of the support for that project, to invite you to see it if you would like, and to let you know it's having a big impact in the city. And as far as the plan, I just wanted to say, as always, that we encourage affordable housing, all types of housing, as far as priorities related to CDBG. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Right, is there anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, we will close the open Peter?
Yeah, no, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, it's fine to close it. Just wanted to let council know that 3 of the requests are in letter form in your council packets. Friendship House, Community Action, and Skagit Gleaners have all sent a letter to you, so those are available for you to read as well. And,
So I am going to close the open public record. Is there any questions or comments from council? So I did have one question, and it's more for public knowledge. Mr. Donovan, would you mind explaining how that process works, how those dollars are allocated, what the process is to apply for those?
Sure.
And is that application period still open?
Yeah, so the application period is still open. This is sort of the beginning of that. We contacted as many social service agencies that we knew of that may have been interested to let them know, but also posted public notice that from now until early May, we'll be accepting these applications and hearing from the community on specific needs that they have identified in Mount Vernon. So we'll be considering all of those and compiling a draft annual action plan, so that when the city finds out in the summer how much money HUD is going to give to the city for the city to give out to these agencies, we can make those decisions along with council and with public input.
Thank you. I'd also like to remind the public that this is a block grant that comes from HUD. We receive that every year. As Mr. Donovan referred to earlier, we never know what that amount's going to be until we actually receive it. But this is dedicated funds that we must use for improvement of those that are kind of the most vulnerable in our community. It's to go to affordable housing, for food assistance and different things. So this isn't the city taking a block of taxpayer money and allocating it out. This is actually a block grant that's coming from HUD, and we're basically mandated to allocate those dollars out, just so the public has a clear understanding of how that process works. Any other comments? Mr. Morales.
Thank you. I know we don't know the number for the funds until we know, right? But on the memo provided, it mentions about 5 or so years previous funds, and I've noticed that it's gone down. Any indication as to why that might be?
No indication, and we don't know from year to year why, as our population grows, there's less funding available, but that is the reality of it. And I was on a call today with HUD, and they suspect that this year's allocation may be similar to last year's. Once again, fairly low number. So 360,000 is maybe the ballpark of what we're looking at. They use HUD hands down a formula, and it's based on population and need. So
Okay.
just
Thank you.
abide by that. You bet.
Yeah.
All right. If council has no further questions, we'll move on. All right. So I'd invite Mr. Valesky to come up and present a budget amendment. And when it comes time to take action on that, I would remind council that this will be ordinance number 3865.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pulse and council members. So tonight, city staff is requesting council to approve ordinance 3865 to amend the 2023 adopted budget. So there's two things to the budget amendment this time, and the first one includes the Park and Enrichment Services Fund. They're requiring an increase in part-time positions to adequately support activities of the park department. These part-time positions include 2 facility monitors, they're on-call positions, 2 recreational leads, one for their nature camp and one for their the Go Playground, and 2 recreational aides for the nature camp. These additional positions do not require any increase in budgeted appropriations and are included in the previously adopted parks overall part-time hours that were budgeted to these services. So we're not requesting any new funding for it. In the past, we did all the part-time positions just by number of hours, and we're trying to get away from that and make sure that council adopts approves the actual positions. So there's just 6 more positions that we're requesting, but we're not asking for any more funding for them. They already are included. Okay. The second one is the wastewater utility fund. It's requiring an increase in appropriated expenditures in the amount of about $150,000 to account for a purchase of a mini excavator that will be used to make grade adjustments to manhole castings, repair sewer mains, and the broken connections to the main. This machine will be specified so that it can be utilized in confined areas like alleys or undeveloped right-of-ways that cannot be accessed with the large excavator, but large enough to place materials and safety equipment. This machine will also be used for other activities like repairs to curbs, sidewalks, catch basins, and underground repairs within the wastewater treatment plant. Fund reserves will offset these costs. So as these increase in part-time positions in Parks and Enrichment Services and expenditures in the wastewater utility were not included in the 2023 adopted budget, these budget amendments are necessary to complete and properly record these activities. The wastewater utility fund has available funding for this expenditure. So with that, city staff is requesting council to approve ordinance 3865 to amend the 2023 adopted budget.
All right, thank you. Does council have any questions for Mr. Valesky on the budget amendment?
I have no questions, and if I hear no questions, I'll motion for the approval of ordinance 3865.
All right. Motion is made by Councilmember Morales to adopt ordinance 3865. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Molinar. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by a sign of nay. Ayes have it. The budget amendment is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would invite Ms. Berner to come forward with an agreement for an approval agreement with the Washington Trails Association.
Good evening. So I am back here to discuss with you a agreement with our Washington Trails Association for this year. As you know, last year we entered into an agreement with them, and so we're looking to continue that agreement going forward in 2023. It's to continue the work up at Little Mountain. Last year we were able to actually reroute a trail on the top part of Little Mountain, the Ridge Trail, and they did some tremendous work. If you haven't been up there, I'm sure this spring when things dry out a little bit, you might go up there and try it out. We were able to reroute it away from the cell towers, from a steep slope area, and also we were able to make sure that we decommissioned some other social trails. As you would take that trail, it was kind of hard towards the end to figure out where you were supposed to go. There had been so many social trails that had been put in up there. So that was a huge section of work that had been done, and we're just looking to continue some more work with them at Little Mountain to make some of those bigger projects happen in 2023. The Washington Trails Association, they provide the crew members and a qualified staff member to do this work. So the work that they're doing, they coordinate it, give us a scope of work, and we coordinate with our staff to make sure that what they're doing is cohesive with our work and our maintenance going forward. So with that, staff is requesting approval for the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Washington Trails Association for maintenance work up at Little Mountain.
Great, thank you for your presentation. I would ask council if there's any questions of Ms. Berner in regards to the agreement with the Washington Trails Association.
I have no questions. I'll just make a motion that council approve the mayor to enter into the cooperative agreement.
Okay, motion has been made by Councilmember Beaton. I believe I heard Councilmember Correas second that. Sorry, Juan, she got in right before you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by a sign of nay. Ayes have it. We have approved the agreement with Washington Trails Association. Oh, you're up on deck again.
I am.
So this is in regards to an emergency purchase from Electrical West Incorporated.
Correct. So, city staff is seeking through a motion and vote a ratification of the attached contract for emergency work to Sherman Anderson Park. So we've already moved forward with entering into the contract of this, but as per code, we need to bring it back to council for ratification. And I wanted to make sure you had a complete understanding of what we are doing out there. So first of all, Sherman Anderson with the backstop piece, I hope you got all the updates on that, and the poles have arrived. And they are on site, and that is super fantastic. So they are, tomorrow's the big day out there to actually, they've got a crane coming in and going to start erecting those poles tomorrow. So the backstop piece is going forward. And with that, when we've been out there working the light poles, they're 70-foot wooden poles that go up in the air with these huge lights on the top of them. If you've been out there, you can see that in the wind, they move quite a bit. We saw what happened with the wooden poles that we had out holding up the backstop. When we had the poles tested a couple years ago, the two poles that came out saying that they were maybe not so sturdy, we gusseted, if you remember that. But then one of the poles that did not come out saying that it needed to be gusseted, because it just all depends on where you test that pole at. And it snapped off in the wind, and we were lucky that there was no huge damage to our facility or to any individuals or adjoining properties with that. And so in looking at the poles that we have there holding up these huge lights, we want to make sure we don't have some catastrophic incident happen with those poles coming down. You have a 70-foot pole with some large lights on top, electrical. We need to get those reduced in size and make them so we don't have a catastrophic event happen out there with those poles. So we went to Trico, who is currently doing that work out there with the backstop, and they gave us a bid, which you saw in there was a little high. So we reached out, and not everybody does this type of work, so it took us a little while to keep reaching out and finding different folks who could put a team together actually to come out and do this work. So Electric West put a team together with themselves, a crane operator, and an arborist and a tree guy to come out and actually do this work. And that will be happening next week. And it was a significantly less cost than what Trico was going to charge us. So we wanted to move forward with this project as quickly as possible. Every time the wind blows, I get a little nervous. And we just had some folks the other day that were delivering the poles to us, and they even made a comment of, oh my gosh, those poles, they're moving. I don't know if we feel really safe out here. And so we just want to move forward with this to make sure that we don't have some other big issue on our hands down the road, or even this year. So I'm here to answer any questions. Sean is here to answer any questions that you might have.
Right. Any questions for Ms. Berner?
So all of them will be steel poles then?
All of the
All the light-
backstop
all the
poles
backstop.
will be steel poles. The
Then
other
the-
poles are just gonna get reduced in size right now.
Oh, okay.
And then we will evaluate where we go from there. And so all the lights are coming off of them. We will not have lights on any of the poles. The lights are not really used out at Sherman Anderson. And so we're just reducing them all down to a minimum height. Some of them will be at about a 30-foot height because we've got to coordinate a little bit more with the Skagit County and the fair folks, because they have electricity that's up on those poles. So we've already been in communication with them, talked with them, gone out, done site visit with them. Where can we bring the poles down to so that we can have a safe environment out there, and still provide you what you need. And so in the future, we will be evaluating how to address lighting and if we need lighting out at Sherman Anderson.
So there will not be any lights on these poles, you're just gonna cut them down?
Correct.
So the high school doesn't need lights?
They do not use lights. Their games are usually played
4
in,
o'clock?
yeah.
Okay.
And that time of year, we have really nice light out there, so.
All right. Any other questions for Director Berner?
Well, Sherman Anderson's an essential facility. We've invested a lot of money to upgrade the backstop. This makes a lot of sense. And you know, health and safety is number one. So it all sounds appropriate, and unless there's other questions, I would certainly make a motion to ratify the emergency contract with Interwest.
All right. Motion is made by Councilmember Brocksmith, seconded by Councilmember Correas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by a sign of nay. We have approved the emergency purchase.
Thank you. Invite anybody to come out if you want to see the poles going up tomorrow.
I was
Thanks.
just gonna say, all of a sudden, this downtown Mount Vernon has cranes all over the place. It's kind of exciting.
That's true.
So I would invite City Attorney Rogerson up to present Madrona Law Group agreement.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Holst and members of the esteemed City Council. Before you is a contract for professional services with a law group called the Madrona Law Group, which is a municipal law group. There are about 2 or 3 of them in Seattle. This one is a law group that's been around for a while. They practice particularly municipal law, and they have represented several jurisdictions in the past. This is for legal work to assist development services in this upcoming 2023 season. We believe, looking at the legal needs for that department and the in-house resources, that they'll far exceed what we can do in-house. Particularly, you're going to have a big periodic review coming up that they need to prepare for. There is updating legislation, and they're looking at significant potential changes in discussion with the City Council of your development code. All of that probably leads you to need to look at these specifically for compliance with a variety of statutes, including the Growth Management Act. So land use is 1 ounce of prevention is worth 20 pounds of cure. So it's my recommendation to enter into the agreement. I've talked to Kim Pratt, who would be the lead counsel of Madrona Law Group. She's well qualified. Her hourly rate's there. That is the usual and customary rate for an attorney of her experience. I have no issue with her qualifications nor her ability to provide sound legal counsel, which would always happen through the city attorney. And it's important that your legal counsel have good relationships with the client. And she does have a good relationship with your current planning director, which is all the more reason I support entering into this particular agreement, because it's crucial that your city attorney or your outside counsel has good relationships with the client, because that's core to an effective legal service.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Rogerson?
If I hear no questions, I'll motion for the approval of the agreement with Madrona Law Group.
A motion has been made
Second.
by Councilmember Morales, seconded by Councilmember Molinar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the sign of nay. We have approved the agreement with Madrona Law Group. Mr. Rogerson, you're still on deck.
I am. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Holst. And members of City Council, before you is an agreement forming what's called the Opioid Abatement Council. As you know, Mount Vernon is a party along with many other local governments, and we're engaged in litigation seeking to hold entities of the pharmaceutical supply chain and prescription opioids accountable for the damage they have caused to local governments. Previously, you have entered into a settlement with several of these entities, and as memorialized in a memorandum of understanding related to the allocation and use of the proceeds, which we have settled along with every other local jurisdiction in the city as well as the state, we're required to create what's called an opioid abatement council. Now, this council will not have any authority on how you use your funds. That's up to you. You have agreed in your settlement that you must use it according to the approved uses, which are many and numerous. What the Opioid Abatement Council will do it will be recording your reporting that you have used it as an approved use and reporting it back. Beyond that, if there is a dispute as to its use, they can serve some type of decision-making process. However, you have complete discretion within the four corners of your settlement agreement to use the funds that are allocated to you, either individually or jointly with other local jurisdictions. The Abatement Council consists of a representative of each county. This is multi-county. This is Whatcom County, San Juan, Island, Snohomish, and Skagit, and a city for each county. So it's equally represented between the counties and the cities. And it is a requirement before you get your money that you have to form this.
All right, are there any questions?
I have no questions. I'll make a motion that council approve the mayor to enter into this settlement agreement.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Beaton, seconded by Councilmember Morales. There's no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the sign of nay. The city has approved the agreement for the Opioid Abatement Council.
Thank you.
If I may? I do have one question though, and it's fine because it's, the passage of this didn't depend on this question, but I am curious. On the representatives sent to the OAC, representatives from the county and then one representative for the cities within that county. The agreement doesn't indicate what city it would be.
Oh.
How does that work out?
That's going to be worked out upon each local jurisdiction, so you're going to be engaged in further conversation with the other cities and determine how you will find such representation. It's important, I think, that these are framework agreements to allow local control of those decisions, and they don't want to give you a fait accompli, because I think the likelihood of everybody agreeing as to one method might be problematic. So it's going to be up to us in Burlington and Anacortes and Cedar Woolley and everybody else.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the memorandum of understanding with Skagit County.
Right, this is a continuation of a memorandum of understanding as a member of what's called the Skagit County Children's Advocacy Center multidisciplinary team. What we're asking the council to do is approve my motion authorizing the mayor to entering this MOU. This is what I would call a gray area of whether or not we were going to even take this to city council, because a memorandum of understanding is not always an agreement. But upon looking at this, I think it does obligate you to do a couple things. It obligates the city to keep certain information confidential, and it obligates the city to follow agreed protocols on how to investigate crimes that relate to children. Now, our police department has been operating under this protocol for a number of years, and because our policies aren't clear as to whether or not we can enter into this agreement without council approval, you always have the ultimate authority to enter. So it's our conservative approach to ask you to just endorse this, because there is some commitments here. Chief Kamek's here if you have any questions regarding the investigative protocols. I am a lawyer, I'm not an investigator, so I probably couldn't answer that. However, we do recommend that you approve this memorandum of understanding, which forms this multidisciplinary team in which Mount Vernon is a part, so we can work cooperatively to protect children that are victims of child abuse.
Any questions for either City Attorney Rudderson or Chief Kamek?
I just note that every day is a learning opportunity. This is something I really didn't have much idea about, but I'm happy to see it. And unless anybody else is gonna go there, I'd make a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into the MOU as proposed.
Motion was made by Councilmember Brocksmith. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Correas. All those in favor of the city entering into the memorandum of understanding with Skagit County Children's Advocacy Center signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by a sign of nay. Ayes have it. The MOU is approved.
Thank you, council.
Right, Ms. Thomas.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Host and council members. I'm here in regards to the approval of an agreement with CDWG for engineering services. I came to you last year, and it's an open-ended, it's for 1 year, so it lasts for 2023. It's one of those in case we need it. It has a maximum spend of $15,000. If, it's in case when we're deploying something and something happens, we need help, or I find that I need help higher level than I'm working on something inside the back end of Microsoft 365 and I need assistance at a high engineering level, we have that. So that's really what this is for. And it's got an attached scope of work, and I just would like the mayor to be able to sign it, and that's my request.
Any questions? I just have one. We entered into an agreement similar to this last year. How much of that $15,000 did we spend last year?
I think we spent $1,250.
Okay.
Like, it's small. It's really, it's never very much. It's just when there's something weird that we can't
I imagine
figure
it's
out.
priceless, though.
Like, it is. It's like phone a friend. Like, it's it's the $1 million question, phone a friend. So it comes in handy when you have it. And I like Scott and Jill. Like, if I'm gone somewhere and something happens, I like them to be able to have it. Like, it's that sleep well at night kind of thing.
All right. If there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agreement with CDWG.
Go ahead. I heard something.
Well, the only comment I think I have is I think Councilmember Molinar will really approve of this. So if he doesn't make the first, I will.
Well, I could move to approve to sign a statement of work with CDWG.
Okay. Motion has been made by Councilmember Molinar. That was a rough way to get a motion.
Wow.
Seconded by Councilmember Morales. So, Mr. Molinar, would you like to explain to us why you like this? Did you have a problem with your computer?
Maybe. Can you check your phone, Mary?
Absolutely, I can. I
All
can
right.
absolutely check my phone.
All those in favor of the agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by a sign of nay. Ayes have it, the agreement is approved. And last but not least, Mr. Chesterfield.
Good evening, City Council. This is an agreement with David Evans and Associates DEA. The city staff requests that the City Council authorize the mayor to enter a professional services agreement with David Evans and Associates Incorporated to provide culvert replacement grant writing assistance services in the amount of $37,100. The city has 7 known fish barriers and that are either partially don't allow fish up or totally don't allow fish up, complete barriers. We did just a few years ago with Skagit County, we did the Maddox Creek culvert removal at Bonnie Ray Park, and that was a grant opportunity with Department of Ecology that was well received and was a successful project. We've had fish up through that system, and we have video of salmon coho going up that system since that was done. The city has a couple of grant applications pending. Actually, I found out one of them is not pending anymore. We didn't receive funding for the 30th Street, but we plan on applying for that one again. Staff requests that the City Council approve the professional services agreement with David Evans and Associates to provide culvert replacement grant writing services.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chesterfield. We had this discussion in committee earlier this evening, but does council have any questions in regards to this agreement?
I'm all about this one. A lot more
The
than
blockage
IT.
is your fishing pole.
Yes, exactly. I'd make, authorize the mayor to enter into professional service agreement with David James and Associate.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilmember, Molinar, seconded by Councilmember Beaton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the sign of nay. Ayes have it, the agreement is approved. My understanding is there's no need for a executive session this evening,
That's correct.
so we will be adjourned at 8:08.
Thank you, man. Well, I'm gonna be gone.